In a quiet Alpine valley in Styria, Austria, there sits a small wooden hut built in 1747. It is called a Zelthütte, a smoke hut. The stone foundation is worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic. The timber-planked walls are blackened with the soot of 275 years of continuous use. The ceiling is so thoroughly saturated with wood smoke residue that it appears almost varnished. Until the Second World War, that hut kept families alive through 6-month Alpine winters when no other food source could be guaranteed. Inside, whole hams, sides of pork, entire legs of venison, long strings of sausages, and racks of fish would hang from wooden pegs for days, sometimes weeks. A small fire burned at a distance, carefully fed to produce smoke without heat. That cool smoke drifted into the hut at no more than 30 degrees Celsius. Never hot enough to cook the meat, always cool enough to dry and cure it. 6 months later, the hams were still hanging. The sausages were still firm. The fish was still edible. No refrigeration, no electricity, no chemical preservatives. Just wood smoke, salt, thyme, and the knowledge of how to keep the fire far away from the food. This is cold smoking, the oldest meat preservation technique in human history. Why does that matter to you in 2026? Because every one of those old techniques was discovered, because people had to survive without supply chains. They had to keep meat edible through a winter with no grocery store, no power grid, no supermarket cold-cut counter. They figured out solutions that still work today, for the same reasons they worked then. The practice appears in Ice Age hearths across Europe. It shows up in China during the Zhou dynasty, more than 1,000 years before Christ, where preserved meats were central to daily food security. Egyptian tomb paintings show smokehouses. Egyptian tomb paintings show smokehouses. Medieval European villages had communal smoke huts at the edge of every settlement. American settlers built dedicated smokehouses behind almost every farm through the 1940s. All of them used essentially the same technique, because when something works, it does not need to be reinvented. Then, in the span of about 3 decades between 1950 and 1980, the practice almost disappeared from the American home. The electric refrigerator arrived. Commercial curing salts became industrial products sold by a handful of manufacturers. The USDA introduced regulations on home-produced cured meats that made selling them commercially nearly impossible. Building codes in most suburban municipalities restricted the construction of outdoor smokehouses as fire hazards. Insurance policies stopped covering farm buildings that produce food for non-commercial sale. Within 2 generations, millions of Americans went from knowing exactly how to turn a fall hog harvest into 6 months of preserved meat to buying vacuum-sealed deli ham at the supermarket and having no idea where it came from. The knowledge was not destroyed, it was simply made invisible. And in this video, we are bringing it back. The full system. A classic cold smoke setup with indirect flow, where the fire stays far away, the smoke cools before it enters the chamber, and the meat is preserved without ever being cooked. Where it came from, how it works, how you can build one in your backyard with materials that cost less than a month of grocery bills. If you value this kind of knowledge, join us. Subscribe to Cryptos. Every forgotten system we bring back on this channel takes weeks of research. Now let us continue. So how does cold smoking actually preserve meat? The principle is simple to understand, but what happens inside the meat is a remarkable chemical reaction. When wood burns slowly at low temperatures, it releases over 400 distinct compounds in the form of smoke. Most of them are harmless. Some of them are remarkable. A family of chemicals called phenols, along with 2 related compounds named serengol and guaiacol, have proven antimicrobial properties. When these compounds settle on the surface of meat, they inhibit the growth of bacteria and fungi. Specifically, they target Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella, and common spoilage molds. Tiny amounts of formaldehyde, produced naturally by burning wood, act as an additional preservative on the surface layer of the meat, and the gradual drying effect of continuous airflow removes moisture that bacteria need to survive. But here is the critical detail that separates cold smoking from hot smoking. If smoke arrives at the meat at temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius, the meat starts to cook. If smoke arrives at the meat at temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius, the meat starts to cook. This is why hot smoking produces ready-to-eat barbecue that needs to be refrigerated or eaten within days. The smoke arrives between 15 and 30 degrees Celsius, warm enough to carry the preservative compounds into the meat fibers, cool enough that the meat never passes into the temperature zone where bacteria thrive. Combined with a proper salt cure applied before smoking, the meat dries slowly, hardens on the surface, and develops what traditional butchers call pellicle, a protective skin of dried proteins and smoke compounds that seals the interior against contamination for months. A properly cold, smoked and cured ham can hang in a cool pantry for 6 months. A salami-style sausage can hang for over a year. Some European dry-cured hams are aged for 2 to 4 years without ever being refrigerated. The meat improves with time, the flavors deepen, the texture firms, zero electricity, zero chemistry lab, zero dependence on any modern system. Wood fire produces heat. Heat travels with smoke. If you burn wood in the same chamber where your meat hangs, the meat cooks. It does not matter how small the fire is. The radiant heat alone will push chamber temperatures past 40 degrees Celsius within minutes. Your meat is now a roasted pork shoulder, delicious for one meal, useless for 6-month preservation. The solution, developed independently by every culture that practiced cold smoking, was to separate the fire from the food. This is the indirect flow system. The traditional Austrian Selchuta, the Polish Wędzarnia, the Scottish smoke bothy, the Appalachian smokehouse, all of them are variations of this same principle. Fire far away, smoke cooled in transit, meat suspended in a chamber that stays cool, dry, and filled with gentle filtered smoke for days on end. The Scottish smoke bothy, fire far away, smoke cooled in transit. The Appalachian smokehouse, all of them are variations of this same principle. Meat suspended in a chamber that stays cool, dry, and filled with gentle filtered smoke for days on end. Let me walk you through how to build one. This is not a project for a weekend. It is a proper construction task that will take 2 or 3 weekends if you are working alone, a single long weekend with a few helpers. But it will last decades and feed your family for generations. You start with the firebox. This is a small masonry or steel enclosed fire pit located roughly 3 to 5 meters away from where the smoke chamber will stand. The firebox has an air intake that you can adjust to control the rate of combustion. You do not want roaring flames. You want slow smoldering. Oak, hickory, apple, cherry, maple, and beech are the classic woods. Never softwoods like pine or cedar. The resins in softwoods produce acrid, harsh smoke that ruins meat and can contain genuinely unhealthy compounds. The firebox is usually dug partially into the ground with a small chimney or baffle that directs the smoke toward the cooling duct. Traditional designs built the firebox inside a small stone shelter with a heavy iron lid. Modern designs often use a repurposed steel barrel or a sheet metal enclosure. From the firebox, smoke travels through the cooling duct. This is the heart of the indirect flow design. In the oldest European and Appalachian smokehouses, the cooling duct was a simple trench dug into the earth, lined with stone or brick, and covered with flat stones or earth. Modern builders sometimes use 4-inch or 6-inch steel stovepipe buried in a shallow trench. Others use terracotta drainage tile, which is cheap, rated for high temperatures, and conducts heat away efficiently. The smoke traveled underground for 3 to 5 meters. During that travel, the earth absorbed most of the heat. The smoke arrived at the smoke chamber at nearly ambient temperature, already saturated with all the preservative compounds it would ever carry. Where the duct meets the smoke chamber, there is an inlet at the bottom. The smoke enters low, fills the chamber gradually, and exits through a small vent or chimney at the top. That top vent creates a gentle, continuous draft that pulls fresh smoke through the entire system without any fan or blower. Same stack effect principle that powers a root cellar ventilation system. The smoke chamber itself is a small enclosed structure, typically 2 meters tall, 1.5 meters wide, and 1.5 meters deep. Traditional builders use stacked timber planks, fieldstone and mortar, or in the Austrian Alpine tradition, notched log construction. Traditional builders used stacked timber planks, fieldstone and mortar, or in the Austrian Alpine tradition, notched log construction. The interior is fitted with horizontal wooden poles or metal bars from which the meat hangs on iron hooks. The exterior has a tight-fitting door, usually with leather or felt seals along the frame to prevent smoke leakage. The roof should shed rain completely because moisture entering the chamber disrupts the drying process and can cause the meat to mold. Before any meat is smoked, the wood itself must be cured through what is called a seasoning fire. You light the firebox and run cool smoke through the entire system for 12 to 24 hours with nothing hanging inside. This coats every interior surface with a thin layer of smoke compounds. That coating both seals the wood against moisture and establishes the flavor profile that every future batch will absorb from the chamber. A smokehouse that has been seasoned this way for years produces meat with more complex flavor than a new smokehouse can ever match. This is why traditional Styrian smokehouses built in the 1700s are still preferred by master curers over any modern equipment. Nearly everyone who builds one of these gets something wrong on the first try. The draft is the most common failure. If your cooling duct slopes even slightly in the wrong direction, the smoke will not travel. It will pool in the duct, cool below what drafts need, and stall. The first time I heard about someone building one of these, he lit the firebox and watched smoke come back out the feed door instead of moving through the system. He had buried the duct with a slight dip in the middle. He spent a weekend digging it back up and relaying it at a consistent upward slope toward the chamber. After that, the draft ran perfectly for years. The second common failure is wet wood. If the hardwood chips you are burning have been sitting in a damp shed, or if they were split recently and not seasoned for at least 6 months, the smoke that comes off them is bitter and full of water vapor. That water vapor condenses on the cold meat and the chamber walls. Instead of drying your hams, you are moistening them. Mold appears within days. The whole batch is ruined. Dry hardwood is not optional. It is mandatory. The third common failure is the seal on the chamber door. If there is the smallest gap around the frame, outside air leaks in, the stack effect draft becomes unpredictable, and the chamber temperature fluctuates. A leather strip or thick felt along the door edge solves it. And the fourth failure is impatience. People get the system built, cure a beautiful pork shoulder for 5 days in salt, hang it in the chamber, light a small fire, see smoke drifting past the meat, and decide the job is done in 18 hours. It is not. A proper cold smoke for preservation takes 3 to 5 days of continuous smoking with the fire tended every few hours. Skipping that time means the meat absorbs only a fraction of the preservative compounds. It will look smoked. It will smell smoked, but it will not last the way it should. You will pull it out of the pantry 6 weeks later and find it rotten. These are not theoretical warnings. These are the mistakes that every generation of new builders repeats before they figure out the rhythm. The good news is that you only make each of them once. After the first failed batch, you know what the system needs. After the second, you can run it nearly on instinct. The learning curve is real but finite. Traditional farmers did this work during the cool months of late fall and early winter, when ambient temperatures naturally stayed below 15 degrees Celsius. Cold smoking in summer heat is risky because the chamber temperature can easily drift above safe ranges during the afternoon. The practice was seasonal for a reason. Traditional farmers did this work during the cool months of late fall and early winter, when ambient temperatures naturally stayed below 15 degrees Celsius. Cold smoking in summer heat is risky because the chamber temperature can easily drift above safe ranges during the afternoon. The practice was seasonal for a reason. An entire hog, properly processed, can yield 120 to 180 pounds of cured and smoked meat. Hams, bacon, sausages, smoked shoulders, jowl, pork loin, all shelf-stable at cool room temperature for up to 6 months. Some preparations, like properly cured dry sausages, will last even longer. An entire deer or elk can be processed the same way. A fall harvest of fresh fish, whether trout, salmon, or other species, can be cold smoked into a supply that lasts through the winter. The material cost of a proper backyard smokehouse typically runs between $300 and $800 depending on how much you can source locally. The labor is substantial, but you are building an asset that will outlast your kitchen appliances by decades. So why did this disappear? Not because it failed, not because it was unsafe, not because there was a better alternative. It disappeared because the entire infrastructure that replaced it was more profitable to the companies that made it. Electric refrigerators sell every 13 to 17 years. Commercial cured meats sell every week. USDA inspection requirements made small-scale farm sales commercially impractical. Zoning laws in suburban developments prohibited outbuildings that produce smoke. Insurance premiums rose for any property with a working smokehouse. Homeowners associations in most newer subdivisions explicitly banned them. Within 2 generations, the knowledge required to cure and smoke a hog was effectively gatekept to commercial producers and a handful of artisanal butchers charging premium prices. Meanwhile, the same meat that a farmer in 1940 could produce in his own backyard for the cost of the salt, the wood, and a few afternoons of work now retails at specialty food stores for $40 to $80 per pound. The flavor is nearly identical. The preservation method is the same. The only difference is that the customer has outsourced the labor, the equipment, and the knowledge to a commercial intermediary. A handful of Americans have never lost the skill. In the Ozark Hills, in the Appalachians, in parts of rural Pennsylvania, in Amish and Mennonite farming communities, the smokehouse still stands behind the farmhouse. Some have been in continuous use for 4 or 5 generations. Some families have meat records going back 100 years. Cold smoking workshops are spreading through the homesteading and off-grid communities. Books like Rytek Kutas's Great Sausage Recipes and Meat Curing, first published in 1984 and still in print, preserve the technical details. Modern practitioners have rediscovered and refined every aspect of the tradition. The knowledge was never destroyed. It was just set aside while commercial meat processing consolidated into a handful of industrial suppliers. Here is the practical bottom line. You do not need this system to eat next week. You can go to the grocery store and buy a ham tomorrow. But if the grocery store stops delivering, if the refrigerator goes out for a week, if the cost of meat keeps climbing the way it has been, this is the kind of backup that your family used to have by default. A smokehouse behind the house, a few hundred pounds of cured pork hanging in the pantry, food security that does not depend on anyone else's supply chain. If that sounds like something worth having, start small. Read the Kutas book. Build a test smoker out of a metal trash can this summer. Try cold smoking a few fillets of fish. Taste what the real thing is like. Then decide whether the full backyard setup is worth the weekends of work. Nobody's going to build this for you, but nobody is stopping you either.